Where will NASCAR run the 2025 Clash? Will it be in Los Angeles? Will it be in Mexico? Or maybe up in Canada? Or maybe even back to Daytona? The fans are divided on this. NASCAR's holding meetings, and we will discuss it all today on Shifting Gears.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can they not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, these guys! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Hey Gearheads, and welcome on in to Shifting Gears. I am Alan Bailey. We are back in the studio after spending a wet and wild weekend out in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. I had a blast, man, but before we get on into where the Clash will end up in 2025, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video throughout the 2025 and 2024 seasons, and you can also log on to arnrace.com for the latest on everything motorsports. Formula One, we're stepping up our coverage in a big bad way in the 2024 season, and also NASCAR content by yours truly and some other wonderful, talented reporters, so go check that out, arnrace.com. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Oh, make sure that you go check out the video that we did out at the Coliseum after the race out there. Yes, I was standing in the rain. Yes, I have a little bit of the sniffles today because of it, even though I was wearing 3 jackets. I can't say this enough. Kudos to NASCAR. It is Monday evening as I'm recording this, and it is still raining. It hasn't stopped since about 9:30 at the Coliseum on Saturday night, I should say. It has been raining ever since. It rained all day Sunday here in Los Angeles. It rained all day Monday, or it has so far, and we're hearing it's not going to be letting up until Tuesday night, Wednesday morning perhaps. Most of the state's out of power. There are a lot of flooded roads out there. It is pretty dangerous and harrowing. I'm safe. We have power, obviously, for the time being. The governor did declare a state of emergency here in California because of all the flooding. Listen, 4 or 5 inches of rain doesn't sound like much, but here in Los Angeles, Southern California, the California state in general, we don't have great irrigation and flood control for this stuff. So it was a good decision on NASCAR's part. It was a great decision on NASCAR's part to move the Clash to Saturday night. I know a lot of people are still on about it. Oh, you know, it should have been on Sunday. Listen, we were all kind of waiting and seeing what the storm was going to do. At one point this last week, it went down to I think it was only a 20% chance of rain on Sunday, and then it went up to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80%, and it rained all day Sunday. So NASCAR did make the right call. We were waiting and seeing. That's why NASCAR didn't make that call days earlier. Even 10, 11 a.m. local time, they were still kind of going, should we, shouldn't we? And then finally around 12:30 local time, they made that decision with 4 or 5 hours to really put this on, and kudos to Fox, kudos to NASCAR for getting that decision made. But it leaves the question, now that the current contract has ended for the LA Coliseum, where does NASCAR take the Clash next year? There's a ton of speculation where this race could be next year. There's reports that it could be going down to Mexico City or even Guadalajara next year, which I'm interested in. I'd love to see a Cup race go down there. I think what we need to do with the Clash moving forward, and this is my opinion, is we need to combine the Clash and the All-Star race into one singular preseason event, and it needs to be by invite only, period, the end. The reason we need to do this is because I'd like to see North Wilkesboro become a points-paying race. I think that area deserves it. I think that making it an All-Star race is kind of disingenuous to the fans out there, and NASCAR is looking to add more points-paying races to the schedule. This does that. Eliminate the All-Star race, because let's face it, every single week is an all-star race for these guys. You look at every other form of sports, yes, putting the A player from every single team into one game is awesome, but we have that every week in NASCAR, and it's a little stupid to do an all-star race that doesn't pay points. So combine the Clash and the all-star race, because the Clash has devolved from the person who gets a pole in the season coming out to this event to, come on down everybody. We might as well just call it the All-Star Clash or something like that and call it a day. But moving past that thought and that idea, I do think that NASCAR needs to use this Clash All-Star race as kind of a trial for different markets and new markets within the country and outside of the country. I think that holding it at the LA Memorial Coliseum was a huge win because, let's face it, Los Angeles and Fontana are not right next door to each other. They're separated by about 45 miles, give or take. So for somebody who lives in Los Angeles, Venice Beach, this area where there is so many people, there's literally millions of people within a 10-mile radius, it's hard to get out to Fontana. It's literally a 2-hour drive on a bad day, and that's a bad commute. That's asking a lot for a non-NASCAR fan to go out to. I think NASCAR putting it in the city, in the Coliseum, was amazing because it brought NASCAR to the backyard and made it so much accessible to a demographic of fans that haven't really had NASCAR in their backyard before. I've never seen it that close to the city, and the first year that we had it at the Coliseum, it was amazing. The atmosphere was unreal because you had new NASCAR fans. About 70% of the people who bought tickets to the first year were brand new NASCAR fans who had never, ever been to a NASCAR race, let alone a motorsport race for most of them. So it was huge to bring it into the city. And I know the NASCAR diehards who didn't go down to Daytona, who have never gone down to Daytona, all complain, I wish it was back down in Daytona. But let's really look at that. That last year, it ran on the super speedway. Was that a good race? There was, 7 cars running at the end? The car that was wrecked won the race because he was getting a push from Denny Hamlin, who was multiple laps down to do his wreck. Was that entertaining? Was that good racing? Hell no. Do we want that back? I sure as hell don't. We put it on the road course in Daytona. That wasn't that great either. Yes, that road course is amazing, but it's better when the cars are bunched up in traffic trying to get their way through, and I do have an idea for that. Make sure that you stick around to the end for my idea to bring it back to Daytona. But for the most part, I think that LA was a success. Yes, this last year is going to leave a sour taste in NASCAR fans' mouths because, frankly, no matter what NASCAR does, it's never good in their eyes, and they're always going to bitch and moan and complain and always find something wrong. And if that's your outlook, get the hell out of my sport. We don't need you. I don't want you here. I think that there is a case to be made to bring it back to Los Angeles because next year there is no race out in Fontana at the California Speedway, formerly known as Auto Club Speedway, but those naming rights expired, so it's now back to effectively the California Speedway / Fontana. That racetrack isn't going to be ready, nor do I want it to be ready in 2025. I want them to take their time. I want them to get it right. I want to show up to an amazing, pristine, beautiful, modern facility, and NASCAR's doing that, and they're taking their time, and building a brand new facility almost from the ground up is going to take time. They are working on it, and I know people, there's doubt because I haven't seen a rendering yet. Because NASCAR hasn't finalized their plans yet out there. They are still working with iRacing on models. They are still working with developers and designers to bring something that we've never seen at a racetrack in NASCAR before. This racetrack will rival what we see in F1, but it's not ready yet. And because of that, where do we go in 2025? The Los Angeles market needs to be on the schedule in 2025. And yes, you can hold a race maybe at the Long Beach road course, the street course out there, but it's going to take a lot in order to get that done. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is possible, but to get the city, to get the city council, to get the zoning rights, to get everything lined up perfectly is going to take a lot of time. And I don't think it's going to be ready for 2025, maybe 26, 27 down the road, but it's not going to be ready for a Clash / All-Star race or even a points-paying race in 2025, I believe. Maybe. Just maybe it's possible. Maybe it could happen, but I don't think it's going to. We see iRacing taking the Cup cars to the Long Beach street course this week coincidentally, and I do think that there is good racing down there. I think that the city of Long Beach can definitely support a Cup race down there. There's 200,000 people that show up to the race when Indy cars take to that course. I do think that they can support a NASCAR track. And I acknowledge there's not 200,000 IndyCar fans in the Southern California area. People who go to that race are going to that race because it's an event, similar to what we see with the LA Clash. But they're getting turned onto the sport like they've never had before, thanks to the Netflix documentary, thanks to being more accessible to fans in this area. And it's important for NASCAR to be in this area area for years to come, especially in 2025. The quick fix to make sure that that happens is going out to the LA Memorial Coliseum for a 4th year in a row. I think that that is most likely what will happen, but if that deal doesn't get done, what are the best options? Someone threw out Irwindale Speedway. That's actually a really good idea. I think that the racing at Irwindale Speedway could be phenomenal for a Cup Series. However, there is no pit road. That would have to be constructed. That's easy to do. Safer barriers would need to be added to that facility. That's an expensive ask. And on top of that, the infrastructure at Irwindale is nice. It's fairly modern. It was built in the 90s. However, it cannot accommodate a Cup Series event, unfortunately. At best, and I'm being generous, that facility can hold about 10,000 people, give or take. You would have to easily quadruple that, if not more, in order to put on a Cup race. And on top of that, where do you put the TV trucks? Where do you park all of those cars? Parking's already an issue down there because of utilizing that land for other things, according to the landowners out there. Again, Tim and everybody at Irwindale lease the land in order to hold the races out there. There just happens to be a racetrack built on it, and the land was purchased by developers not too long ago. So getting that situation done is going to be just as expensive, if not more expensive, than going to the Coliseum. Mexico, though, is very interesting. NASCAR is holding meetings, and they're inviting people from multiple countries, including Mexico, to the Daytona 500 in 2024, with the hope of showing off what they can do and what their audience and crowd looks like to try to woo them into holding an event over the southern border. And I'm very much for that. I do think that Mexico and Canada can both support a Cup date, if not an Xfinity and Truck date as well, and I do think that those are markets that NASCAR is working toward. We heard rumors last summer that NASCAR was trying to get a race north of the border up in Canada for the 2024 season. It didn't happen, unfortunately, because there's a lot of red tape when you go to another country. And will that be sorted out? Will that work itself out in essentially the next 8, 9, 10 months? I don't think so. I think that that's a long-term plan that NASCAR is working toward. I think that 2026, 2027 is more likely for a race in Canada and in Mexico, but Mexico City, Guadalajara are both cities that have been discussed for Mexico. Whether or not that happens for 2025, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how those negotiations play out. The option that a lot of drivers and fans want to see happen is taking this race back to Daytona. I'm not a fan of that for obvious reasons. I honestly think that going to the big 2.5 mile oval is a big step backwards. This event should be different. It should be an event and not just a head down to Daytona. It's going to be another race down there. Just get it over with. The 500s in a few weeks. That's the one that matters. Because at the end of the day, if I'm a fan who lives in the Daytona area, am I going to go to the biggest race NASCAR holds every year, the Daytona 500? Or am I going to go to a 150 lap, doesn't matter, exhibition, doesn't pay points, nothing, Cup race? I'm going to go to the Daytona 500. And I think asking fans to pick and choose that Sophie's choice between the Clash and between the 500 is not a good idea. And you're wearing out the market. So no, I don't think it should be back in Daytona. But if we're stupid and we do move it back to Daytona, here's what I would do. I would not run it on the 2.5 mile oval, but instead run it on the road course again, with a massive caveat. I've seen this idea floated out there. I've seen IDK Player run his version of this race in iRacing, and I thought it was pretty damn cool. Let's actually take the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series and hold one exhibition race at the beginning of the season. We'll call it the All-Star Race. We'll run it at Daytona. I'd like to see 2.4 hours. I think that would be kind of cool, exactly like IDK Player did, but whether or not that happens or not, I don't know, but I think it would be cool to see the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series all on track on the road course simultaneously, and Cup, Xfinity, and Truck all have to work around and navigate around each other. I think that would be fascinating. So the Cup cars would probably have the advantage, even though those Xfinity cars would by far be the better race on that track. It allows you to essentially put on one all-star race where only winners go, and you could even do an open where all of the cars that did not win in Cup, Xfinity, and Truck race maybe the night before for a little shootout, or maybe earlier that day. I don't know. I think that the possibilities are definitely there. Turning it into a 2-day event would be pretty damn cool. But I mean, if we're going to do that, why not go down to Homestead, Miami instead? And do it on the road course out there, and I'm being dead serious, because that track can certainly accommodate it. What the weather looks like in February at that time of the year, I don't necessarily know. It's raining here in Southern California and has been for literally 48 plus hours now, 50 plus hours now. So I don't know. This is always going to be a crapshoot. I think that putting it on a road course is probably our best bet to actually see it happen versus putting it on a short track or in a coliseum. But I don't know. I'm so divided and I'm so split on this. I really want to see it back in LA for selfish reasons, because I do think that putting it in Los Angeles has become a new tradition, because I know some non-NASCAR fans who go to this race every year, have gone to it the last 3 years, and they look forward to it. They don't go to any other NASCAR race. They've never been out to Fontana and probably never will, simply because they don't want to drive 2.5 hours each way to get to the racetrack, and can you blame them? I am all for change. I am all for whatever grows the sport, and when the Clash was in Daytona, it was not growing the sport like it has the last 3 years here at the LA Memorial Coliseum. But I want to hear from you. Where should the 2024 LA Clash, the All-Star Clash, run in 2025? Let me know in the comments down below. Should it head down to Mexico, back to Los Angeles at the Coliseum, or even back to Daytona, whether that's the 2.5-mile oval or the road course? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video throughout the 2024 season. And of course, you can always log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. We're going to be back probably tomorrow, Wednesday. There wasn't a whole lot of news on Monday, and yeah, there's some news today, but it'll hold over till the next video. So we will be back a couple of times this week. I know we've got the big game this weekend, but you know, it's the last off weekend before NASCAR heads down to Daytona for the 500 next weekend. So we're here. The season's here. It's already begun, and I cannot wait. So for Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see ya at the track.